Howdy. So our topic is student logs, and the first question is how can it be utilized in any PE unit? So first off, logs are important because they allow you to show like day-to-day progressions, and it also allows you to track student behaviors. With that being said, we believe that as a teacher you should want to collect logs weekly. It'll benefit you and your students because you can provide feedback to them based on what they provide to you, and then maybe they're missing some kind of topic or key point. So you will then know that, and then you can work with them on that. Next question is what's the primary domain that's used? Typically, it's usually the psychomotor domain for logs, like for like a fitness unit. Maybe you're just logging like, oh, I did 150 bench press, 200 squats, But for this, if you could, it really could be used for all three domains, and like one could argue that the affective domain is the primary domain because it's the key factor when it comes to like completing these logs. Because if you have students that are absent for 3 or 4 PE classes, they're not going to have a completed log. You shouldn't expect them to have a completed log. But if they do, that obviously you could see the honesty that is lacking, the lack of honesty. So, in itself, a log completion is an effective test alone. So that's one thing. The best assessment tool and how to be integrated to our grading policy, we chose the point system, and we chose that because like each part will have a point, and it will allow us to place like an emphasis on a specific part. For us, it's going to be the affective, the honesty part. And with us collecting it each week, we can like get a constant check with our students, and we can have a good relationship and communication back and forth. So if they're doing not that good of a job to start, after that first week, we can notify them that, and now they know this is how it's supposed to look. This is what I expect out of you next time, kind of thing. Instead of a month past doing a unit, and now they're SOL because they didn't know how well they were supposed to be done. So we have a point for the psychomotor domain with a question, a point for a cognitive domain question, 2 points we will reward for the affective question, and then a point for handing in weekly on time for that class, and then after the weekend or whatever it is, teachers will hand it back to their students. Last question, so how does it apply to my unit, which is floor hockey? So for example, I would have the students for that day list the skill cues they used, the skills they used, and then the cognitive could be identifying an offensive tactic. Let's say if you're working on attacking a goal, identifying an offensive tactic, attacking the goal would be the answer. And then what's the affective would be like, what's one way that you can be a better teammate to your classmates, stuff like that, and that'd be worth 2 points, and you'd give them space to answer these questions and everything, so they would know it's not a one-word answer. I want them to use complete sentences and stuff like that. So Josh is going to come up and explain his basketball unit.
Evan did a great job explaining what logs were and how the best way to use a log during a PE unit would be. Mine, like Evan, I have basketball, so another team sport. So my log would be structured pretty much the same way. For example, the students would list the skills that maybe we worked on during that day. For example, we could have worked on the 3 different passes, the bounce pass, chest pass, and the overhead pass, which would be analyzing the psychomotor a little bit. And then for the cognitive, I could have them analyze when a bounce pass should be used over in chest pass, so that way they understand the tactics of it and can analyze and kind of compare and contrast those 2 different passes. And then an effective question could just be what's one way you can show leadership, or one way that you did show leadership throughout the day, if leadership is the effective focal point that we're going to try to hit for the unit. That would be a great way to get it. And again, like Evan said, just completing the log, there's a effective test in itself to making sure you answer everything honestly.